Hi, I'm Rodney Thompson, Tabletop Games Manager at Wizards of the Coast, and today I'm going to give you a quick look at our new board game, The Legend of Drizzt. Now this is a cooperative adventure game where 1 to 5 players take on the roles of Drizzt Do'Urden and the other companions of the Hall as you play through adventure scenarios based on the Legend of Drizzt novel series. If you've played our other cooperative board games, Castle Ravenloft or Wrath of Ashardalon, the basic gameplay is the same, so you can probably just jump right in. But for everyone else, let's take a look at what you're going to need to set up your first game. So the box is full of components. Some you're going to need for every game, and others you only need for certain adventures. The first thing you'll want to do is grab the adventure book. You'll pick out an adventure based on the number of players you have, and it'll tell you what you need to pull out for that particular scenario. In this case, let's just look at Adventure 1, Exile. It's a one-player game in which you're escaping from the Underdark, and of course, it suggests that you play the first time through with Drizzt. I'll go over getting Drizzt ready for the adventure in a minute. If you look under Adventure Setup, it says you need to get the Surface Hollow destination tile and set that aside for later in the game when you reveal the other tile you need to pull out for this adventure, the Underground River. In this case, you're going to shuffle the tile stack, count down past 8 tiles without looking at them, and place the Underground River in there. So you'll have to do a little exploring before you find it. The adventure setup also tells you to get out 1 Healing Surge token and to draw 1 random item card from the treasure deck. So your hero starts with a little something extra, in this case, a potion of healing. Be sure the monster, encounter, and treasure decks are shuffled. Have the monster minis close at hand. Put the start tile in the center of the table. Place your mini on any square, and the dungeon awaits. Before you head off on your adventure though, you'll want to have your hero ready to go, and you want to know what he or she can do. So let's take a quick look at the hero card for Drizzt. Most of it is pretty straightforward. At the top, you'll find the hero's name, race, and class, along with a brief description. Below that is the important stuff. Armor class is the number an attack roll must equal or exceed to hit your hero. Hit points are your hero's health. Speed is the number of squares your hero can move in a single action, and surge value is the number of hit points you regain when you use a healing surge. Each hero also has a unique special ability that exemplifies that hero's style and characteristics. Drizzt has a twin scimitar fighting style, which is reflected in his expert combatant ability, which allows him to make an additional attack on his hero phase. Under powers, you'll find a list of which power cards the hero can use. You'll see that some specific cards are listed, and that you also get to choose a few other powers. When you're first learning the game, you'll probably want to use the power cards suggested in the front of the adventure book. After a game or two, you'll have a better understanding of how your hero works. Then, you can take a look at your other power cards, and select them according to how you want your hero to play. Now we're ready to play. So let's go over what you do on your turn. If you look at a sequence of play card, you'll see that a player's turn consists of 3 phases, which you complete in the same order each turn. You start with the hero phase, which is when you move, attack, and take other actions, such as destroying objects or disarming traps. Next is the exploration phase, where your hero delves deeper into the dungeon, revealing new cavern tiles and encountering monsters. And last is the villain phase, which is where you draw and play encounter cards, and when you activate monsters, villains, and traps. You can't adventure if you're unconscious. So at the beginning of the hero phase, if your hero is at 0 hit points, you need to use a healing surge to regain health equal to your hero's surge value. If there aren't any surges left, that's game over. But we're just getting started, so we're ready to take action. And you have a few choices. You can move your speed, then attack. You can attack first, then move, or you can move twice. Now there are also a few actions you might do on your turn that count as if you'd attacked, and that's destroying objects and disabling traps. And you can always pick up and drop objects for free. Some quick things to remember about movement. You can move in any direction, including diagonals. You can move through squares occupied by heroes, but not squares occupied by monsters or walls. At the end of your hero phase, you deal with conditions. If you're immobilized, you remove the immobilized token, so you'll be able to move normally on your next turn. If you're poisoned, you attempt to save by rolling a d20. If you roll a 10 or higher, you discard the poison token. If you fail to save, and you're still poisoned at the beginning of your next hero phase, you take damage before you do anything. After the hero phase comes the exploration phase. This is where you delve deeper into the dungeon and discover new monsters. But to do so, your hero needs to have ended the hero phase in a square along a tile's unexplored edge. To explore, you just draw the top cavern tile and place it. If you take a look at a cavern tile, you'll notice that it has a triangle along one edge. When you place the tile, that triangle should point back towards the tile your hero is exploring from. You'll notice that the triangle might be white or black. A white triangle is good news. It has no special effect. But a black triangle means you're going to draw an encounter card during the villain phase. You'll also notice that every cavern tile has a square with a mushroom patch in it. That's because you always run into a monster when you place a new cavern tile, and the mushroom patch is where they start. So after you place the tile, you draw a monster card and place the corresponding mini on the mushroom patch. Once you draw a monster, you control it when it moves and attacks. And if you draw a new monster card that matches one you already control, discard that monster card and draw another one. But if another player controls a matching monster, that's okay. The last part of your turn is the villain phase. The first part of the villain phase involves drawing encounter cards. There are two different reasons you draw an encounter card. One, if you didn't place a cavern tile on your exploration phase. Or two, if you did place a cavern tile that had a black triangle. In either case, you draw and play an encounter card. There are 4 different types of encounters in the Legend of Drizzt, that each work a little differently. You have event cards, which represent sudden harmful things taking place. There are event attack cards, which are one-shot direct attacks against one or more heroes. Trap cards create dangerous effects that stay in place and can continue harming the heroes until they're disabled. And lastly, the Mark of Lolth curse cards, which immediately do damage to your hero and inflict more damage each time another hero suffers the same curse. After you resolve an encounter card, if there's a villain in play, you activate the villain. Keep in mind that once a villain is in play, it activates during every player's villain phase. Lastly, you'll activate any monsters or traps you control in the order that you drew them. And if anyone else controls a monster that matches one of yours, those monsters are also activated. Once you've finished wreaking havoc on yourself and your friends, you're done with your turn. Let's take a look at a monster card. You've got the name of the monster and its creature type, its armor class, and hit points. The tactics outline how the monster should move and attack. You've got the attack bonus and the damage dealt by a successful hit. You'll notice that some monsters have attacks with miss effects. Finally, there's the experience points that you add to your party's experience pile when you defeat the monster. The tougher the monster, the more experience it's worth. So let's get into combat. It's pretty straightforward, especially if you've ever played D&D. The first thing you've got to do is select a viable target. Some attacks require you to be in an adjacent square. Other attacks are ranged, and can even reach across several tiles. So to actually make your attack, you roll a d20 and add your attack's bonus. If the total is equal to or greater than your target's armor class, it's a hit, and you deal damage or other effects. If your total is less than the target's armor class, it's a miss. But keep in mind, some attacks have a miss effect. If you deal damage to the target, but it's not enough to finish him off, indicate the damage it suffered with a monster hit point token. If your attack deals more damage than the target's hit points, it's defeated. Remove the mini from play and put the monster card in the party's experience pool. If you defeat a monster, or even several monsters on your turn, you also get to draw a single treasure card, and we'll take a look at those next. You'll start most adventures and finish many of your combats by drawing a treasure card. There are a few different types of treasure cards. There are items that you keep until you use them, a few item cards that remain in play throughout the rest of the game, and fortunes that you play immediately to gain some beneficial effect. Remember that when you're drawing a treasure card at the beginning of the game, you want an item card. If you draw a fortune card, just set it aside until everyone's drawn an item. Then shuffle it back into the treasure deck. Throughout your adventure, you'll defeat monsters and amass experience points as a party. Together, you'll decide how and when to use that experience pool. You can spend experience points in one of two ways. The first is leveling up. Whenever you roll a natural 20 on an attack or disable trap roll, you can spend 5 experience points to level up to second level. When you level up, flip over your hero card to the second level side. You'll see that your armor class, hit points, and surge value have all increased. And you get to choose an additional daily power. The other thing you can do with experience points is cancel an encounter card. The way you do that is after you draw an encounter card, but before it goes into play, you can choose to spend 5 experience points to cancel it, completely avoiding its effects. Sometimes things don't go well for the heroes. If your hero ever drops to 0 hit points, tip the figure over. At that point, you can't take any more damage, which is nice, but conditions like being poisoned persist. If your hero is healed by another character's power, potion, or fortune before your next turn, just take your turn as normal. If you start your turn still at 0 hit points, you need to use one of these. But at that point, if there aren't any healing surges available, you lose the game. Sad but true. Let's talk about winning the game. So how do you win the game? Well, the victory conditions depend on the adventure you're playing. For Adventure 1, Exile, you win when your hero escapes to the surface by ending your hero phase on any of the 4 end squares of the surface hollow destination tile. In Adventure 3, The Hunt for Shimmergloom, the heroes win when they defeat the evil Shadow Dragon. Those are just the basics to get you started. Once you've played through the first 4 adventures, you'll have a good grasp of how the game works, and you'll be ready to add the cards from the advanced deck. You'll find new powers and treasures for your heroes, along with more dangerous monsters and encounters to face. You'll even be able to play as Artemis Entrari, Athergate, or Jarlaxle. For additional challenge and adventure, you can combine the Legend of Drizzt with the Castle Ravenloft or Wrath of Ashardalon board games. There's a lot of adventure packed into the Legend of Drizzt, and plenty of replay value as you return to each adventure with different heroes and different powers. We hope you and your friends enjoy playing together through the Legend of Drizzt. Thanks for watching.